Science has illuminated the fact that all human varieties trace their ancestry back to Africa, challenging the misconceptions and stereotypes that have long plagued the continent's history. This revelation prompts a reconsideration of Africa's role as the cradle of humanity and civilization. Far from the derogatory depictions of Africans as passive or underdeveloped, the early inhabitants of Africa were innovators and survivors who mastered their environment to ensure their survival, and hence the survival of every human being alive today. Well, let's recount the prevailing theory about the Earth's history. The universe began around 13 billion years ago, with dinosaurs ruling the Earth until their extinction 65 million years ago due to an asteroid impact. This cataclysmic event paved the way for small mammals to thrive. Approximately 10 million years ago, a primate ancestor common to both chimpanzees and the earliest hominids emerged. Among the earliest known hominids is Toumai, whose 7-million-year-old fossil was discovered in Chad, marking a significant point in human evolution. Following Toumai, the evolutionary journey continued in Africa, with species like Homo erectus and Homo habilis, leading to the spread of pre-humans across various continents, though many would eventually become extinct. Until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. The birth of the first modern humans, characterized by distinct features such as a prominent brain, occurred around 300,000 years ago with Omo I, whose remains were found in Kibish, Ethiopia. These early modern humans, originating from Africa, would go on to populate the rest of the world. Around 100,000 years ago, Africans embarked on a monumental journey, migrating out of the continent to populate the globe. Their initial steps took them through Palestine and Yemen, spreading across Asia from Israel to Japan, as the first modern humans to inhabit the region. Meanwhile, in West Africa, pygmies harnessed the Atlantic Ocean currents to reach Brazil between 50,000 and 65,000 years ago, marking the early settlement of the Americas. These African explorers also made their way to Australia and the Pacific Islands, including Hawaii around 50,000 years ago. By 40,000 years ago, they had entered Europe, reaching as far north as Scandinavia and England. For thousands of years, these African ancestors were the sole inhabitants of these vast lands, laying the foundation for the diverse populations we see today. The emergence of varied ethnicities, including white Europeans, Asians, and Arabs, began around 7,700 years ago, showcasing the dynamic evolution of human diversity. So what is the scientific basis for dark skin? As most of you might know, the production of vitamin D is partially dependent on sunlight exposure. However, excessive sunlight, like that in Africa, can be harmful and potentially lead to skin cancer. To protect against this, the body produces melanin, a pigment that darkens the skin and safeguards it, while still allowing enough sunlight to synthesize vitamin D. The dark skin of black people is an adaptation to the intense African sunlight, balancing vitamin D production with protection against sun damage. However, when early humans migrated to northern Europe, they encountered a much colder climate with less sunlight, especially during the Permian glaciation, which lasted from 130,000 to 10,000 years ago. In these conditions, high levels of melanin hindered vitamin D synthesis due to limited sunlight exposure, potentially leading to bone fractures, disabilities, and premature death. Research indicates that with equal sun exposure, white individuals produce more vitamin D than black individuals. This suggests that over time, to adapt to lower sunlight environments, human bodies in ancient Europe evolved to reduce melanin production to facilitate adequate vitamin D production. The transformation of skin color in European populations is a fascinating example of human adaptation and evolution. Up until about 8,500 years ago, regions corresponding to present-day Luxembourg, Hungary, and Spain were predominantly inhabited by people with dark skin. The arrival of West Asian humans, known as the original Eurasians, around 7,800 years ago, introduced two prominent genes, SLC24A5 and SLC45A2, which are associated with lighter skin pigmentation. Furthermore, in Scandinavia, a region known for its colder climate, humans began to develop lighter skin around 7,700 years ago, also influenced by the HERK2 OCA2 gene linked to light skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. This shift towards lighter skin was a result of natural selection, as those with lighter skin were better adapted to the low, ultraviolet light environments of Europe, possibly leading to longer lifespans and higher reproduction rates. By about 5,800 years ago, Europe's population was predominantly light-skinned. Interestingly, the genes associated with light skin are also linked to albinism, a condition that includes a range of genetic variations affecting skin pigmentation. The most common form of albinism in Africa, caused by the OCA2 gene, underscores the shared genetic heritage between Africans and Europeans. Essentially, the adaptation that led to lighter skin in Europe is an extension of genetic traits originating from Africa, suggesting that the low pigmented skin of Europeans can be traced back to African ancestry. The phenomenon of albinism, which has historically contributed to the presence of blonde hair in Europe, is also observed in Africa, where a significant number of albinos have blonde hair. Interestingly, Africa also hosts individuals with red hair and freckles, indicating that such traits are not exclusive to any one region or a result of mixing populations. While these hair colors and features are less common among Africans, they underscore the genetic diversity within the continent. This suggests that the varied hair colors and even the blue and green eye colors seen among Europeans have their roots in African genetic diversity. The prevalence of such traits has been amplified in Europe, likely aided by the spread of genes like OCA2, highlighting a direct genetic linkage and shared heritage between the continents. The texture of hair, unlike the variations in hair and eye color, which may arise from genetic variations, appears to have been significantly influenced by environmental factors. In Africa, the intense sunlight necessitated a hair type that could protect the scalp from excessive heat, leading to the evolution of tightly coiled hair that forms a protective crown. In contrast, the colder climate of Europe presented a different set of challenges, suggesting that straight hair may have offered better protection against the cold by covering the head and possibly the respiratory entrances more effectively, reducing exposure to cold air and potential illnesses. However, it's important to note that straight hair is not exclusive to any single population. Historical accounts and genetic studies reveal the presence of individuals with notably dark skin and straight hair across various regions, including ancient Sudan, Iran, India, and among the Fulani people of Africa. These observations indicate that straight hair can be found among individuals of African descent without implying mixed heritage, challenging the notion that hair texture is solely a product of environmental adaptation or recent genetic mixing. The concept of Asians possessing a distinct yellow skin tone is a result of European colonial racial categorizations, rather than a reflection of biological reality. In fact, many populations in East Asia exhibit the OCA2 gene, indicating a genetic predisposition towards lighter skin, similar to the phenomenon observed in European populations. However, the characteristic epicanthic fold, often referred to as slanted eyes, is thought to be an adaptation to the harsh environmental conditions found in the high-altitude regions of northern Asia, between Siberia and Mongolia. The intense light and cold winds prevalent in these areas necessitate a narrower eye aperture for protection, a trait that has become common in the populations of these regions. Interestingly, a similar feature can be observed among the Khoisan people of Africa, one of the oldest human groups, who also display epicanthic folds alongside their dark skin, suggesting a potential ancient African origin for this trait. While the environmental adaptation theory offers a plausible explanation for the spread of these physical characteristics in Asian populations, conclusive evidence linking these traits directly to African ancestry is unsubstantiated at this time. This connection highlights the complex interplay between genetics, environment, and the movement of human populations over millennia. Approximately 5,000 years ago, significant human migrations and interactions led to the formation of diverse ethnic groups through the mixing of different populations. The emergence of the Semitic white population in the Middle East is attributed to the mixing of white men from northern Eurasia with black populations of the region. According to Cheikh Anta Diop, the Akkadians of Iraq were among the first white Semitics, illustrating the blending of white and black ancestries. This complex ethnicity continued to evolve with Arabs, resulting from the mix of original whites and blacks in Arabia, and other groups like Hebrews, Palestinians, Lebanese, and Syrians, emerging from mixes of Canaan, Phoenician whites, and blacks. Berber whites in North Africa are a blend of European whites and original Berber blacks, reflecting a history of enslavement and interaction in the Muslim world. In the Americas, Native Americans are described as a mix of Asian migrants who arrived 5,000 years ago and original black populations. Latinos, on the other hand, result from the mixing of Native Americans and European settlers over the past 500 years. The Mediterranean type in Europe owes its characteristics to mixes between whites and civilizing black populations from Africa, including Egyptians, Phoenicians, Etruscans, and later Moors, or Saracens, from the Maghreb. These interactions contributed to the distinct features seen in southern European populations, such as darker hair and brown eyes, compared to their northern counterparts. Genetic research has revealed that Neanderthal DNA significantly contributes to the genetic makeup of modern humans, with all non-sub-Saharan African populations having inherited 1.5 to 2.1% of their genome from Neanderthals. This interbreeding between Neanderthals and anatomically modern humans occurred in multiple instances over thousands of years, with evidence suggesting that about 20% of Neanderthal DNA persists across the modern human genome. Neanderthal genes have been found to influence traits ranging from skin and hair texture to susceptibility to various diseases. Cheikh Anta Diop emphasized the pivotal role of African ancestors in shaping the early course of human civilization. Long before the rise of civilizations in Greece, Rome, or Mesopotamia, Africans had already made groundbreaking contributions across various domains such as the arts, religion, notably monotheism, literature, philosophy, science, including physics, mathematics, and astronomy, medicine, architecture, and agriculture. These achievements were made at a time when much of the rest of the world was still navigating through stages of pre-civilization. Diop's work underscores Africa's position as the birthplace of civilization, arguing that, as humanity's earliest home, Africa, not Greece, Europe, the East, or Mesopotamia, deserves recognition as the true cradle of civilization. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I would like to say a special thank you to all of our subscribers, Nubian Storytellers. Join our Discord and share your knowledge with like-minded people. Be proud of your African heritage. We have a great past and an even greater future. See you soon.